We're back. Knack.
We're back, baby.
We're
Knack is back.
Knack and back.
It's back.
Happy post New Year's.
Happy post New Year's,
everyone.
So 2025 is going to be a good year.
Yep.
Defining year for humanity.
Huge year. An agentic year, honestly.
An agentic year.
Agentic.
It is going to be an agentic year, specifically for Devin, but also for the rest of us.
Right, for all humans.
Pretty nuts how big tech is rallying behind agents.
Yeah.
And how crypto basically pulled that narrative reasonably first.
I don't know if crypto pulled that narrative first. I think we just feel like that.
Well, crypto capitalized on that narrative first and made the most noise around that narrative.
100%.
Shout out crypto.
Definitely made the most money around that narrative first.
Right.
For regular people, at least. Maybe not for private capital. I like this graphic. Lucas is a good one to look at.
Yep. I saw this in the Bankless AI rollup, which shout out to them because they're actually doing a really good job on that. But I think that this is really interesting, and it does feel very DeFi similar, or like DeFi. There's a lot of parallels, I think, with DeFi right now, and at least the just general cycle trajectory. I definitely feel significantly less tapped into this theme or this trend than I did with DeFi. DeFi I felt very much plugged into. But yeah, I think the current AI trend and the agent trend is something that's bubbling up. Maybe we're kind of hitting a local top right now, but it definitely feels like a pretty strong narrative to head into the next year.
I'm in the same boat. I haven't been following it as closely, Lucas. I feel a little bit all over the place with these new emerging trends. I feel very much in my lane, and I think that's good and bad. I wish I was more up to date with what's going on. So, David, I know you've been in the trenches with all this stuff, actively building Louder and the huge.
It's all happening on DGen chain, Adam.
It's all happening on DGen chain.
You got to go.
You guys won't drop that one. I love it.
Episode 1 for that joke.
I would say I am in the I'd say I'm more in the builder trenches than the trading trenches. So, there are things I miss, but we've already talked about this a bunch of times, but I'm really happy that 2 months ago we started looking at AI16Z, and we've been using that as our agent framework. I think for teams with a real engineering or developer team, it's the most flexible framework that really lets you go build whatever you want. And some of the other ones are closed systems, but it's really like there's AI16Z virtuals at the top, and then some other people vying for that third spot. I actually think there was another graph. Did you send that graph, Lucas? About the people vying for that third spot?
Not that I remember.
It's the one that has like ARC and some other things on there, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And it's kind of like more like a line chart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like squiggly lines, basically.
Coop knows the chart.
This conversation. I know what he's talking about.
He knows the chart.
It is crazy just watching the way these platforms are sending market cap wise right now. It's like ARC's at like 500 mil right now. There's all these agents on base that are trading at like north of 500 mil market cap right now. I saw yesterday this Hyperfleet platform launched straight to 250 mil. It just feels like there's such a belief in this narrative and in what these things can become, where people are like buying things at 500 mil cap and be like, oh no, this is cheap because of the graphic that Lucas just shared. And there's so much room to grow. But I also feel very out of my wits when it comes to being like a hyper knowledgeable person on this topic. And I've definitely been doing my best to keep up with it from a high level, but I can't help but feel like it's also distracting in a lot of ways to like our core mission as a business right now. So I think the challenge is how do you find the right unison of those two worlds to not make it feel distracting, but sort of empowering to everything that we've all got going on.
I guess that begs the question. I think like a lot of people are in a position of they're interested, they're aware of this, but they don't really have the time or maybe like just the capacity to go super deep into the weeds on this. And I guess I'm curious how are you guys playing it right now? Like, are you just buying AI16Z and just that's it? And like, that's the playbook. Virtuals, like, is it just a buy and hold and just let it rip? Or yeah, I guess how are you guys playing this AI trend right now?
I haven't bought anything. I'll let you guys jump into this.
I bought AI16Z I'm mainly letting that ride. I think in terms of playing it in other ways, the other one that I found really interesting that came out in the last 2 weeks is I know the Twitter handle. I can't. The ticker is drugs. It's basically the intersection of AI and DeSci, which I think is going to be like the next big thing to go, because there are a lot of AI applications that can be used for drug research. So this one's interesting to me. I don't have I'm not doing kind of like you guys. Like I see something and I'm like, that's interesting. That fits my thesis of where the world is going. I worked on Hume all weekend. I saw this while looking at that and I was like, this is interesting enough for me to buy some because it fits in with my general thesis. And I also think there's like a left curve, right curve thing going on here, because people who love we're deep into the Luigi scandal. I think they're gonna love this. Like, let's go like beat big pharma, and then you get the right curve people being like, let's use AI to make experimental drugs.
Crazy
I think
audience
it's super interesting.
segmentation.
Crazy audience segmentation.
Audience segmentation.
Plus, like,
Also,
look
who's
at the
this big
avatar.
Pharma? What's up with this big pharma branding? This is nuts.
Dude, the waifu branding, it's
The
unstoppable.
waifu branding's everywhere.
Send it,
It's unstoppable.
Send it to 1 billion, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's just the playbook right now. It's
Look
like
at my
food
tits.
farm.
Look at my
Here,
tits and kill big
In
pharma.
DeFi, it was food farms. You know, you just had every sushi, yams, everything, and now you just have waifu agents. That's the trend. That's how you brand these things.
In the beginning, there was this excitement around influencer agents or like social agents. And it's become pretty obvious that unless the social agent or influencer agent is tied to a bigger network or a bigger cause, those just aren't going to trade really high. Like there's a dev who has become famous in this space called I don't know how you actually pronounce it, but it's Roperito. ROPIRITO is the handle. He's probably one of the best devs in the space. Huge contributor to AI16Z. But he has his own project, which is more of like an influencer agent, and I don't think it's like broken like 10 million in a while. So it's like these infrastructure plays and these bigger plays that are bringing a bunch of things together, if you don't have a lot of time, seem to be the main bet, and then the other ones are kind of like treated like meme coins.
I'd agree with that analogy. It feels like the platforms are catching the largest bids and the highest valuations. And then within the platforms, you have like the trenches, which is like, you know, the virtuals trenches or anything like this, or ZeroPi is about to launch their own agent launchpad and whatnot. And you're basically just pump fund trading new agents that pop up. So I don't know, to answer the question that Lucas had, bought an AI16Z, been holding that, took some profits around 2 bill on it, have some Zerebro, have some Degen Spartan AI XPT, a couple agents on base. So like trading it here and there, but would say that it's not like my main positions in my portfolio right now, although it has become more and more over time. And I think trying to just sit and hold on them is a little bit embodying my wider mentality for this year, which is trying to do less like 0 to 1 mil shitcoin flips and more just like build a big position in something that feels legit and just let it ride and not really worry about it as much.
Where do you feel like most of the energy is right now on like Solana versus Base? Because it does feel like it's kind of culminating in those two ecosystems right now. Virtual's like on Base, and then I guess they're kind of going to Solana now, but who's going to capture the majority of the mind share here?
Well, also Hyperliquid too. I feel like it's something that I've been seeing the last couple of weeks. Like the trenches of Hyperliquid with like hype.fun or whatever it's called has been pretty popping as well. So I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell. I mean, I'm definitely more of a base boy than I am a Sol boy, but I would say that the Solana tokens have generally outperformed base when it comes to AI stuff. But in recent weeks, I mean, the market cap on some of these base agents is getting pretty spicy.
Which
I really don't have a great answer.
Which base agents outside of AI XBT?
Faye. It's at 620 mil right now, I think.
Really?
Yep. There was one called Ray that went up to like 150 or 200 maybe.
What's Faye?
Faye was the one that you like, don't quote me on this, but to my understanding, it's the one that you interacted with it to try and get it to give you 50 grand. And there was like a whole like back and forth situation on a couple of months ago. I haven't kept up with it since then. I just bought it after seeing that whole narrative. And then I looked recently, I put like 0.25 ETH in, and now I have like an ETH or two worth of it. And it's just been straight up. I mean, the weird part about it though, is like these ones on base, I will say, the volumes are nowhere close to the volumes on Solana. Like you'll see Faye goes to 600 mil market cap on the back of like 1 to 2 mil 24-hour volume. And on Solana, when you're looking at these things trading, it's like it's going to 200 mil on the back of like, 70, 80 mil volume. And so I think that there is just a lot more volume and energy happening on Solana. But I think due to the thinner liquidity on base, the prices appear a little bit higher than I think what they probably are on the Solana side, if I had to guess.
Shout out to Jesse for actively shouting out Solana and the base ecosystem and doing like active R&D to better understand what we could do to empower like deep-handed whales on ETH and make them more active on base. I love seeing that stuff.
What did he do? I don't even know about that.
He just actively, here we go.
Mm-hmm.
He's just like very active, doing like just active comms around different ecosystems, particularly Solana. And he's commented on Abstract here and there, but particularly comparing base to Solana and wanting to get more whales, like ETH whales, active on base. And there's been a good amount of dialogue of like, is that even realistic, or we need to make new people rich? I'm just like consistently impressed by Jesse on how he leads the front on this stuff.
Yeah, effectively, this tweet is pretty much just saying that Solana has an edge right now over Ethereum strictly because the builders are higher risk takers, pretty much, right? And I think that's an interesting thing because it does feel like base applications are much more vanilla, I guess. Whereas Solana, even like the pivot for Unlonely, right? Like it went from kind of like, oh, this is a live stream, Brian's a little edgy, to just going full Solana and transitioning to Solana. And now Brian's like fully like just trying to get canceled almost, and like people love it, right? And I think that's a really interesting kind of just difference in the cultures of Solana versus Ethereum, and specifically, how that extrapolated to base. But it is a really interesting take of like Solana just has riskier entrepreneurs, I guess.
So how could like, question for the four of us, and something that I think about, what could we be doing to be more risky as we build everything that we're doing? Like, what does that really entail? What does that mean in practice? Is that just a token at its core, or what does that mean? A rogue personality, or what?
No, I think like kind of what Jesse's saying here is like people on Ethereum, I think generally don't love speculation. Versus Solana, people lean into speculation. And I really think that is it, right? Thematically, it's just leaning more into the speculative nature of crypto and trying to build the product around that so you can tap into that user base, right? And if you think about it, like I think Brandon had that tweet where it was like there's two types of users in crypto: people that are in for make profit, and then people that are there to make profit, right? And it's pretty much people are there just to like make money, right? And I think Solana does a really good job of leaning into that versus base wants to be a little bit more vanilla. I think that's also maybe like on the back of Coinbase is a publicly traded company, and there's like some red tape around certain things that Coinbase might be willing to support versus not.
I also think Ethereum has a culture of utility, for lack of a better word, and trying to like more Ethereum builders are more likely to be trying to solve a real world problem, or tell themselves that they're solving a real world problem and then market what they're doing as solving a real world problem. Some people lie to themselves about what they're doing to accomplish this, but on Solana it's just like, let's make crazy shit and make money. It's just like more of an open casino. And I think Ethereum, even from its roots and even from the whole DeFi era, where like, and NFTs, where like it's utility. And if you've been an ETH builder for more than 2 years, if you've been there, for 20 to 22 or since earlier than that, I think there's a lot of that in the culture, and that has its pros and cons.
I also think that Solana devs are just younger. And I think that's really what it comes down to, is that most of the people that have been building on ETH are just later by virtue of having been around for longer. And if you're coming into the space as a new dev, Solana is just a little bit more attractive place to build. But I think what I'm most excited about is these apps that are sort of treating them as one and the same. And so I'll shout out Vector here, Vector.fun. It's like this social trading app. You can basically trade a meme coin, tell about why you're buying it, broadcast it to your followers, and they support both Solana and Base. And so I think now what I'm starting to notice is that the most forward consumer products are not trying to pick one or the other. They're almost finding ways to allow the trading activity on both chains to come together. And at least for me, it's the first time that I've really felt like my Solana wallet and my base wallet can kind of like live in the same light. And so I think there's a really positive, motion that's happening there right now.
And some of the biggest agent frameworks are traded on Base and Solana. They're not really like I know Cerebro has a Base bridge. Virtuals did it the other way. Like you can trade virtuals on Sol, I believe. So that barrier is breaking down too.
Yeah. Coop, I think it was really interesting of like Solana just has younger devs and ETH kind of has older devs. And to me, it does feel like we've been through, or a lot of people have been through multiple cycles on the Ethereum side. And they're just like tired of the bullshit and they don't want to deal with the bullshit. And that bullshit is like more speculative apps that are kind of just fire from the hip. And I do kind of resonate with that take though. Yeah, nothing else to add.
You know what I've been bullish on from Jesse is his reels, his Instagram reels. Does anyone else here follow Jesse on Instagram?
Oh,
pretty good.
Sounds like I should though.
It's pretty good. Pretty high
He's
quality.
trying to go viral this year. Yeah, they are very high quality. I messaged him yesterday and I basically just said that like the quality of the videos is extremely high quality. I think that the content of the videos feels too crypto centric to me right now, where it's like a lot of stuff at like DevCon and interviewing a lot of founders who are building like DeFi products and whatnot. And don't get me wrong, that's like what people are doing. So I fully endorse the empowerment of that. But I think what's going to connect when it comes to like crypto videos that are going viral in the mainstream is like things that are a little bit more jackpot like is the best way I could say it. Like there was one video that he posted at DevCon where he basically was like, here's 0.1 ETH. Do you want to take it or double it and give it to the next person? And then they would have to say like, oh, well, you can only take it if you have a base wallet installed. So if not, you don't even get to choose. And they kind of like ran around in a circle and talked to like 5 people. And he's like, double it, go to the next person, double it. And then some person just ends up getting, 0.5 ETH because they were like the first person that had a base wallet installed when Jesse came up to them. And I think that kind of content about like the fun gamification of like these big jackpot moments is what I expect to kind of pop off when it comes to going viral with crypto stuff in the real world.
It's like Mr. Beast on crack.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Thinking
Done.
the same exact thing.
Yeah.
I thought it was cool. There was like a cast or a tweet that Jesse put out too saying like, I want there to be like a viral live streamer on chain this year. Basically like a live stream builder more specifically, because you have people like Thread Guy and Frank and whatnot that are doing incredible work in my opinion. But I think that this was more oriented around like being able to ship things really fast. So like go on a live stream, build a product, launch it into the world, get $1 million of volume in the first 24 hours. And I don't know, I really, really resonate with Base's wider intention of wanting to go viral in 2025. I think there's like a lot of different ways that could go and actually take form. But especially for me, I think this idea of like bringing crypto to the mainstream through the more traditional media channels feels like a really good way to think about how to actually penetrate and bring these new people on chain.
I don't remember if this was actually from Jesse or someone else in the Base ecosystem, or just a heavy Base user, but I liked the take that maybe there won't be a Base token, but every asset will be tokenized and Coinbase's stock basically being tokenized, and that kind of becomes the token for Base, which I thought was really interesting.
That was my take. Is I think Coinbase has 2 options there to do something really interesting because they're a public company. Is one, you bring coin stock on chain, you do like a little dilution and you do an airdrop, right? Coin stock, you have to go through KYC, you have to do like normal shit to actually accept the stock. The other option is actually, and the first one feels way easier and way more straightforward. And the second one is actually you launch a Base token and then you allocate a portion of the supply to coin shareholders, right? So you almost bring coin shareholders on chain. I think that part is probably more difficult. But I do think that is like their avenue to kind of like launch a token on Base, right? Is either do it via coin shares or bring coin shareholders on chain in some
I think
capacity.
being the first publicly traded company to tokenize their stock, that just sounds like
it sounds right up their alley.
It sounds right for them, and like such a good narrative.
I like that. Do we think that'll happen this year though? Debatable to me.
No, that's not what their focus is.
Yeah,
I could see it like end
I
of
don't
year.
know.
End
Yeah,
of year.
I could see it end of
early
year.
next year. I don't know. It just seems like there's a lot of unexplored area there, and that they're gonna have to navigate through of like what the hell, how do you actually do this compliantly. So I think they have their work cut out on that front, but I would expect them to do it, at some point. It just feels like the right approach.
If done at the right time, it would massively increase the value of the stock.
Right.
So, I mean, it's going to take time to do it correctly, but I could definitely see them doing it end of year, early 26, if timing is right.
Is there an equivalent of a product like Rodeo or these like consumer applications that are really high quality being built on Solana? Coop, I know you've been playing with a bunch of different consumer apps. You even tweeted a few, I think yesterday or the other day. Have you been seeing any? Have you guys been seeing any on Solana that are on par to those that Ethereum builders are producing?
On par is a strong word. I think that they have very different orientations. I would say that Drip is probably like the strongest consumer collectible app that I've seen on Solana so far. Other than that, I don't think that there's any that I've used actively enough to be able to like give a recommendation. I know there's one called Popset that I think people really like on Solana. Again, haven't really used it very actively. I would say most of the consumer apps that I've seen doing well on the Solana side are more around like social trading. I think that's kind of the category in general that feels to be the main area of focus for like high quality app builders right now. Was that a good segue into talking about Rodeo, Adam? Huh?
Let's do it. Run it.
What a segue.
Rodeo. Big week for Rodeo out here.
91,000 posts collected, 1,000 posts collected on secondary, or I guess 91,500 on primary, 1,000 on secondary, and then 1.4K unique collectors supported. This was on January 6th. Pretty good.
So someone should give a brief synopsis on Rodeo. I don't know.
Go ahead, Coop.
Rodeo is basically a Instagram-like app where every post is available for 24 hours. You collect it for a quarter, so 0.000111. After 24 hours, it expires, and then you can basically make either a 5x, 10x, 100x, or 500x offer on the market. The cool part about Rodeo is that when you collect a post, it goes into your feed, and if someone collects it after you collected it, you get a kickback. And so they're really trying to lean on this whole like referral system that's going on. And I think the network effects have been pretty cool to watch happen. And Lucas, if you go to my Warpcast there, see them in the replies, and you scroll down, I shared a Dune dashboard that Rodeo had yesterday. Keep going. There you go. And the graph actually looks pretty good. I think this is something I've been watching pretty closely over the last couple of weeks. And, nothing absolutely crazy here, but if you look at daily active minters there, I'm of the belief that there's like a couple thousand people daily active minting or even using like, these crypto applications. And so I think that Rodeo is in this trough here for the better half of the last like 6 months. And now if you look at the last, week to 2 weeks, you start to see that curve up on the right there. And that to me feels like a pretty significant thing to pay attention to, which is, basically just like organic minting of this content on chain that I think all of us have been really excited about as a general premise.
Yeah,
is Rodeo
I was going to say, I think that's my biggest question is like all of this organic or what is exactly driving all of this activity?
Straight up. Why are people collecting on Rodeo?
Well, it's just fun to do it. And I think it's just an extremely compelling product. I think if you spend like 10 minutes on it relative to other consumer social apps that are currently out there in the market, it's really easy to do. They added this embedded wallet feature, which at first I was not really super into, but what's the biggest differentiator about Rodeo to me is when you fund the wallet, I'll put in 0.1 ETH to my Rodeo wallet. And when you're scrolling and you're collecting, you're just clicking once. So you can just scroll, collect. There's no like pop out to another transaction you have to sign. It's very, very quick and very, very easy to do. The notification system is very compelling. I think that they've done a great job of kind of pulling you back into it. And the gamification is great. They have like number one posts in these different categories. They have first Rodeo to highlight if someone has a Genesis mint going on. And they did a good job of just really showcasing like a lot of the early posts at secondary markets, like the Jack Butcher ones, for example. You minted it for 25 cents and then you could sell it for $50, $100. Now the economics there are not necessarily compelling to like super big degens, but Rodeo's thesis has always been going after like normal people. And I think this idea of being able to collect something for 25 cents or credits as they call it to be able to mint for the first time, and then using that as like a metric to kind of flip and get these 5, 10, 100x offers. I think that this week something clicked with Rodeo in a way that I haven't really seen yet, but that is definitely worth paying attention to.
Is Rodeo a Zora competitor? Do you see them as competitors? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, Foundation and Zora have always been competitors for like as long as they've been around, I would say. I would think that they are differentiated. And someone asked me this on Warpcast in the sense that Rodeo is doubling down on NFTs. They're specifically going for 24-hour fixed time edition mints, very, very low cost. When you're flipping it, you're just trading the NFTs. And Lucas, I think it might be helpful for you to go to like Rodeo.club and actually scroll the product for a second here too. Versus Zora with their more recent changes are really pushing towards like fungibility. And I also think that Rodeo is extremely focused on art right now. And I think that Zora is kind of more focused on just general, let's call it just content as a whole. And so you see like all these kind of sponsored like doodles mints and stuff like that. But Lucas isn't going to be able to log in here, I don't think.
No.
All right. So this is Rodeo for me. So I just scroll through here. I just look at some different things that are on my feed here. I see a post that I like, hit the collect there. I don't have to do anything else. Keep scrolling here. Just looking at a bunch of art.
Yeah. I guess I'm wondering is like when you see these spikes in activity, there's always like an asterisk of like, is this activity on the back of because there's a bunch of people that think that there's going to be a token pretty soon? And is it like organic with an asterisk?
But why does that matter? I mean, I'm just gonna at this point I'm starting to think like those are just users, and like if you do
I'm not denying the like whether they're users or legit users or anything like that. I'm just wondering like the why collect has always been a big question of like why are people collecting this stuff? And I'm wondering if it's literally just because it's really fun or there's like a lot of upside, or if people are now just starting to catch on that there might be a token in the future.
I think it's probably a combination of all the above. I'm not using this product, so I probably shouldn't comment that much, but my guess would be it's fun enough. Yeah. It's fun enough. It's kind of gamified. You might make some money and you might get a token. So spend 2 minutes a day on it.
Mm.
That's
Honestly,
probably how they're.
looks pretty fun.
Yeah,
it
fun.
is so crazy how much it looks like Instagram right here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure the mobile app kind of follows that. And it is interesting because Zora is also taking that approach. But I think, again, Coop, to what you said is like Rodeo's very much focusing on the NFT side of it. And Zora seems to be more going on the liquid token side of it.
Honestly, it looks much different than when I used it last. And it looks really good.
It's really good. Shout out Rodeo. Shout out Kayvon. Shout out Dat Boy. Shout out the foundation team. Been grinding for ages. And I think talking to Kayvon about, they had built a successful marketplace in 2021 with NFTs. They had a couple $100 million of volume on it, thousands of creators. And I think they made a very hard choice to pivot into this new product that is more about, these cheap and accessible mints. And they've been getting a lot of blowback from it on Twitter for the last couple of months now. So I think to see them now catching a positive wave of energy, I think it's a very positive signal, not only for them, but for all of us on this call.
Totally. If you had one like key learning from how Rodeo is implementing NFT mints that is making it compelling, what do you think the biggest factor is? Is it just the one-click mint, or is it kind of the secondary market activity, or like the revenue sharing? What do you think the big compelling feature is for them?
I think two things. One, it's the one-click mint that you just alluded to. It's extremely seamless. And I think once you fund the wallet for the first time, you're basically just already in there and ready to go. The bigger thing for me is the social network effects of it. So you can see here just on this call, I just minted that. People saw that I minted it. I got a kickback. Granted, it's not a lot of money by any means, but I think that this idea of getting a kickback after you mint something and someone minting it after you, I think there's a very, very powerful flywheel that can be unlocked there. And I think this is the biggest thing that I've wanted to mirror within our product, is just really trying to get to a point where, people are collecting and then you're earning because you collected something after the fact.
Didn't Sound implement something like this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, referrals are definitely not new by any means, but I just don't think that there's ever been enough daily active minters to make the referrals compelling and enough quality content to make it exciting for people to keep coming back. So, I mean, Sounds had referrals, Zora's had referrals, etc. But this feels like the first time it's like really tangible.
I meant this specific implementation. Like when Sound implemented it, they had like a feed where if you minted something, it would show up. And if other people minted from that specific post, you also earned a kickback, right?
Yep, that's correct.
Nice. That's
Do you
really
think
cool.
There's a big overlap between layer 3 users and Rodeo users, or these are just completely different people?
Yeah, I think it's the overlap between cookie users, layer 3 users. all the questing platforms. They drive a lot of the volume. They really
I'll
do.
take the other side of that. I think that the minters on Rodeo are not layer 3 users.
Did they run a layer 3 quest at any point?
Nope.
No.
But just because they didn't deploy a layer 3 quest particularly, those users are active on other networks and other questing platforms. They're active in other Telegram group chats, and their alpha is not the main, like layer 3 is not their main source of alpha. And these are like hyper chronically on-chain users. So I think it's naive a bit to dismiss completely that it's actually
Not
not.
completely. Not
Yeah.
completely. I just think that the percentage of users that are minting on the back of social graphs like Warpcast or Twitter or through more organic channels is much, much higher than the amount of users that are minting via wanting to farm for an airdrop or farm for a reward, etc. I just think that Rodeo's been so clear about that intention, and just their engagement on socials is really pairing up with the activity I'm seeing on the product. That makes me think that there is like a real moment happening for it, and it's coming from people that are willing to give it a try for the first time.
Within crypto or outside of crypto?
Within crypto.
Mm.
But they're also doing a lot of, they've been going to art schools, is my understanding, and basically
really?
going to like college classes and being like, here's $5 of your first credits for free. Post something in this seminar, literally just download the app, post your first piece of art, post your first picture, whatever. And then we're going to give you $5 of credits, and then we're going to mint your work too or something, and kind of get the flywheel going on it to kick it off. So I think it's a lot more like grassroots approach to onboarding creators and getting the flywheel
That's
going.
awesome.
That is really
Yeah,
cool.
I think it's great.
I think that's a great segue, Coop, as a whole of like all the other apps that you've been enjoying lately. There's a really solid list. Rodeo.club we just talked about. We touched a little bit on Vector.fun. Interface we've talked about in past episodes. But, you know, some of these newer ones with Portrait, Anon.world, that's a new release from Anon. Veil.cash, the Cast Money. Coop, give us a lowdown on what's going on here with this list of apps.
We'll give the one-liners for each of them. So Rodeo is a art collecting app. Vector.fun is a social trading app specifically on Solana and Base. Interface is a Base trading app. Portrait is basically a Pinterest. Anon World is a anonymous Reddit style product. Veil.cash is Tornado Cash on Base. And then Cast Money is Farcaster social trading app.
Why do people use Anon.world? Like what is it that's keeping you there?
Honestly, just the casts that are coming out of Warpcast on the Super Anon account, I think are pretty compelling. And the updates that they just did with Anon.world basically expanded it beyond just being like a way to post on Farcaster to it being more of its own permissionless ecosystem. And so you can now add different credentials to give you sort of credibility behind a post. So I can attach that I hold a certain amount of Anon. I can attach that I hold a Farcaster OG NFT. And when I'm posting anonymously, I can basically back up my claim by having these different credentials associated with it. I just think in general, like an anonymized client to post freely on the internet makes a lot of sense to me. And I think that the founder, Slock, who was building Nook before, hard pivoted into building Anon.world. I thought that he was a really compelling and talented dev when he was building Nook. So I think that him combined with this idea of a anonymized social platform feels like there's a lot of design space there.
I like that. Good answer there, Coop.
Have you guys posted through Anon?
No.
Wouldn't you like to know, Adam?
Got it.
I've done one post through Anon. I did one post just to test it out. I thought that the credential system was pretty cool. I'm obviously not really like actively posting on here, but to be honest, people are posting takes on here that I don't think that they would post otherwise. And a lot of it's very good conversation. The one that that's a funny one right there. The one that I quote tweeted the other day was that, this is a deep cut, but basically Zinger, who's one of the biggest traders on Farcaster and on Base, sold some of his Anon tokens for the dick butt token about a week and a half ago. And someone on Super Anon was like, oh, this is the death sentence of a coin because Zinger bought your token. That's what they're trying to imply. And then dick butt moons like crazy. And then Zinger like quote recast, and it was basically like, who's talking now or something like that. And I thought it was just a really funny interaction where someone like had a very, opinionated comment that they did through Super Anon. And then there was like this whole social trading activity thing that happened after the fact that it was a cool Lego block. It's like someone saw the trade on Interface, use that trade to post on Super Anon, and then that interaction happened on Farcaster. And I feel like those dynamics combined was like a cool 2025-esque moment for some of this like on-chain social stuff that's happening.
I think let's pivot into Dick Butt here. What happened? I mean,
What do you mean what happened?
This is my
this came out of nowhere for me.
This is my intro to Dick Butt.
Yeah, not that it's commanding like some crazy market cap, but I do think it's kind of on the back of like Pengu and all these other NFT tokens that are launching. But this one is like more unofficial, right?
I think this one's on the back of Fartcoin.
Yeah.
More so than on the back of the NFT tokens. I mean, to be honest with you, I faded this because I hold an OG Dick Butt and have for a really long time. No airdrop to Dick Butt holders, which is fine. I'm not entitled to anything. But I think when I saw that made me think that it was unofficial, quote unquote. And so I didn't really think anything of it. I've noticed that people on Twitter are trying to position this as like the Pepe of base. Like they're saying that there's not currently a canonical like meme resonant to just like base specifically. So that's what the narrative is here, that this is like the new Pepe on base. But bro, a lot of people on Farcaster absolutely crushed this trade. I was looking at the holders on Interface the other day, and there's a lot of people that made, you know, 1 ETH into 150K, 1 ETH into 250K type thing. So respect the pump, as my good friend Ivan on Tech once said a long time ago. And I think that this is a respect the pump type situation here.
I think my favorite thing.
Yep.
Sheesh.
It's incredible. I think my favorite thing is the y-axis here of negative $2 million market cap. I just want to know what project has had the pleasure of reaching a negative market cap. I don't have any further comments on that.
What else does the agenda have on it there, Soup?
We're really running through it. What else we got? Not much.
I guess I'll give us
just covered it all, huh?
Yeah, pretty
I'll
much.
give us a topic to kind of end towards closing thoughts here. I think it would be good for us to go around the horn and basically talk a little bit more about our individual projects and just some intentions that we want to bring into this year. You know, obviously nothing too crazy from like a specific roadmap side of things, but just like how are you feeling about your individual project going into the start of 2025?
I feel like I've hit a cap on distribution growth, and I need to challenge myself to figure out new distribution. I have a certain number that I want to hit this year by the end of the year in terms of volume and in terms of number of creators, and I need to explore other distribution options in doing so. That's one of the things that I spent the last 2 weeks reflecting on in terms of what I would like to see for our team and what I'd like to see for our creators and our company. And a big part in doing so is the distribution that comes through that. I kind of like Blueprint as there was the meme of like the headless marketplace. You know, like I would love for Blueprint to be a spot where maybe not all the volume comes through bp.fun, but actively contributes to growing marketplaces and allows creators to publish wherever they want. I don't want to build a better Zora or a better foundation or a better whatever. That's not the goal of this, right? It's just like creating really great content, curating really great content. And I think I just need to figure out how to 10x my distribution right now, and explore new routes. So actively been thinking through that, and something that I'm keeping tip top of mind going through 2025. Yeah,
I would plus one that. I think that's like the big thing that's on our mind at Pods as well is one, how do we 10x everything that we did in the past year, right? We did pretty much a 0 to 100 plus podcasts. We did over $1 million of volume. How do we just 10x all of that? And I think the big kind of follow on question there, Adam, for us also is like, how do we go beyond our current distribution channels and how do we 10x those? Because the reality is like the current model that we have is a really good baseline to establish, but you know, we're going to cap out, you know, maybe 2 to 3x of, you know, the number that we want to hit. We're going to cap out at like 2-3x rather than 10x through that model. And we need to figure out, you know, what is the method that's going to get us that remaining 7-8x that we need to get to that 10x number. And I was just going to say that's like the main goal is like how do we come up with new distribution channels? How do we tap into new ones that are just, you know, starting to emerge, all that kind of stuff, and what the distribution strategy looks like. And then also on top of that, it's like, one is the distribution side of it, but two is also like the why collect. side of it, and we're taking that like really seriously. Of like, why are people collecting this stuff? What are the mechanisms that are going to be compelling for people to collect this stuff? And it's really interesting to see stuff like Rodeo starting to get a lot of traction off of organic mints, we'll call it right now, and kind of how they're approaching it, making it really easy, really straightforward, and really fun. So
I feel like the tail end, the last 2 quarters of 2025, I was running really fast, and to do like a year in review was quite surprising for me, and to see all the numbers that we were able to do, um, I was really shocked by it, and spent the last 2 weeks really reflecting actually how that ended up happening and what went right, what went well, um, and I think for like this, like I consider us a boutique market, a boutique agency, a boutique marketplace, whatever you want to call it. Um, I think we did a lot of good things right, and there's a lot of things that we have to do better. And I preface more leaning towards what Jesse's recent tweet, which we talked about, is like how can we as builders be more risk taking in the new year and embrace more of crypto's core values and do it without fear, especially with the new administration that's coming in at the end of January, who's completely embracing crypto. What does that mean for us? What does that mean for our projects? What does that mean for creators? It's all top of mind for sure. Yeah. What about you guys?
David,
I'll go next. Cooper was ready to go, but let's let Cooper wrap it up. Speaking of Jesse, last night I was going through Twitter and he had a post. It was basically a line. There's like exponential growth at the top, and it said basically if we execute well, it's like this. And it was like this if we execute poorly. And I actually, Monday mornings, we have a team meeting at Hume. I pulled it up and I told the team, like, this is the first year where this graph is 100% true for Hume. And it's the first time I feel like everything's truly in our hands to be as successful as we want, or, you know, kind of end up with more of a less exponential line. Since we started, like, it was sometimes it felt like it was too expensive. It was hard to have more than one virtual artist. It was hard to maintain the social media cadence that was needed when you're doing these virtual artists. And for the first time in Hume's history, like, thank you. Like, if Hume executes well and harnesses all these agent frameworks and the tech that has come out the right way, it's the first time where like we can actually have that exponential moment. So for us, like Cooper, the amount of times Cooper has been like, you guys should have 100 artists. And my reaction was kind of like, well, we can't. Like, it's just, we would need to hire more people. We would need this. We would need this. And it's like, now we actually can, and it's not easy, but there's a way to see the path to having 100 artists. There's a way to see the path for how we create enough compelling content to have 100 artists and enough compelling music. So I'm excited. It's also the first time we have a product that people are coming back to every day with Hume World. So for the first time, our destiny is truly up to us and not up to tech limitations or other types of limitations.
Side note, David, I wanted to shout out Hume World in my products I'm enjoying lately yesterday, but I went to your Twitter and it's nowhere to be found. So we got to get it in the mix.
I think we should be tagging him. That's a good point, though.
So next time it's going to get a shout. Next time it's going to get a shout.
All right. Did you use it?
Yeah, of course. 100%.
Right. Thank you.
I would say high level, I agree with everyone's sentiment on this call. I think for me, it just comes down to building a great product. And I think the best way to quantify building a great product is by how much real people can actually use it. And so I think there's like a million different tangents to go into, from distribution to having a stronger protocol to token talk, et cetera. But at the end of the day, I think it just comes down to building a product that real people can use and want to use. And so I think that's my biggest intention going into this year. More great music, better artists on board, and then more specifically, real people using it that have never touched crypto products in the past, and that really being the thing that makes or breaks our destiny this year.
Amen. Amen. I think let's wrap it up with Randomero, the post from Ranny.
This
So
is
good.
how
I was
my New Year-
literally
this is-
gonna. I was literally gonna.
This is
So
how my new year started. Was
That
waking
was
up
so good.
Friday morning to this,
So
and I was
good.
like, "Is he talking about pods? Of course, he's fucking talking about pods."
Congrats, Lucas. That's great.
I think,
Yeah, it's a
yeah,
BG.
Congrats.
I appreciate the congrats. But it's definitely like one of those mornings as a founder. You're just like, God, fucking damn it, of like, I see his point, and I think that's something that we really spent a lot of time on that Friday trying to figure out, and we're shipping a frame fix that will tackle this. But effectively, like, it really just hit the point home of like, no one actually wants to collect media right now, and people just want to listen to it. And right now, in some capacity, people really just want to listen to it on Spotify, and they don't want to see some sort of frame and all these hoops and getting force connected to a wallet and all this stuff. And I think to your point, Coop, it's building a great product and a really good experience that accommodates for users, and allowing them to do exactly what they want to do, and knowing what their user journey is. Most people probably are going to listen to a piece of content or consume that piece of content, then mint it. And I think right now we definitely optimize for people just minting the content and then listening to it after or consuming it after. And I think that is a shift that we're taking internally at Pods of like, what is the ideal user journey here? What do people want to do when they see a Pods link or a new podcast episode that's on chain? And it's probably one, just providing a really solid listening experience, and then two, allowing the collect to be kind of this point of entry into the community, into engaging with that podcast on a deeper level.
But then we had a whole entire discussion of like people collecting media for the sake of collecting media because it's really cool and it's like a good product experience, and that's why people collect media. Like that's like, it kind of goes against a bit what you said, a little bit, not fully.
Necessarily. Like, people will still collect it, right? And I think we've optimized people to go on that user journey of people are going to collect this just because it's cool. And I think the shift that we need to be conscious of is that more people actually just want to consume this media and then collect it if they really love it. And I think that's probably the consumer behavior that more people are going to follow, right?
Yeah.
The other side of it that I found as a founder on this one is like how you actually take feedback and people yelling at you, and like how you approach that. I think that was one thing that we learned the hard way at Bankless when I was there, is like, every morning you get some asshole that was like, sharing their opinion, and like how you handle those situations means a lot. And it really does set the standard for your culture, your company, and like how people are going to, respond to it. So
You just gotta observe. This is just like all comical,
right,
like
it is
mumbo jumbo
comical
with truth to it. Obviously, it's like you have to read between the lines. But thanks for the fucking feedback.
That's how I responded, right? Nothing else. Thanks for the fucking feedback, right? Just in line with him, and like not really trying to push back. Like I wrote like a long post, pushing back on him, being like, this is what and then I deleted all of it, and I was just like, thank you for the feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Move on.
Who wrote a long post?
I did. I wrote a long post and then I deleted it. I was like, I'm not going to do this.
Yeah, just listen.
You went the Solana way.
Randomero, thank you for the fucking feedback, asshole.
Well, with that in mind, Knack is back, baby. Knack is back.
Knack is back.
I'm going to set the intention publicly on this podcast that the boys are locking in to a recurring schedule. We're going to look to get on a recurring release cadence for this podcast. Yes. So
for
those who have been waiting for Knack is back, just know that Knack is back in 2025.
Knack is back.
We're
coming back. For the throne. Knack is back.
Let's go. Knack. Happy New Year's, guys.
Knack is back.
Happy New Year's, guys.
Happy New Year's.
Happy New Year's.